All right, everybody. Welcome to lesson 8 in how to be your own genie. Okay, I apologize tonight because during the day today I inhaled a little bit of hydrofluoric acid. So my lungs are not what they should be. So I might have frogs in my throat once in a while and I might be coughing. So if the sound just cuts out, it's probably just me coughing up a lung, okay? So I'm okay. I'm all right, but just everybody understand that. Okay, so today we're going to go over everything that we've covered in the previous 7 lessons very quickly, and then we have a real treat tonight. Okay, so here goes. Can anybody tell me what the basics are?
Who do you listen to? Teachability index based on willingness to learn, willingness to accept change, training balance scale, the 4 steps of learning, and master the basics.
Wow, that was awesome. Okay, so who do you listen to? You could have 2 possible answers.
Someone who has accomplished something and yourself.
Very, very good. Okay, yes, you do. You listen to yourself because you're going to go with your gut. If you're listening to somebody and it just doesn't seem right, the guy's wearing a suit, he's wearing a 3-piece suit, you know, he's got the look, he's got a good haircut, he uses all the right words, and he just sounds really polished and really good. But there's something that's not right. And whenever he talks to you, presents a business opportunity to you, you just get that feeling like, I don't think so. That is going to be your indicator. Now, it's not a feeling that's in your head. This is a feeling that's going to be below the shoulders, generally in your abdomen. So who do you listen to? You listen to somebody who is successful at the topic at hand. So if you're learning how to cook, you're going to get a very good chef to teach you. If you're learning how to play golf, well, if you had Arnold Palmer teach you, that'd be great. He's not alive anymore, but you get the point, okay? And then ultimately, you listen to yourself. Perfect. Okay, and teachability index, we went over that in detail. The training balance scale, that is where you focus 90% or more on the thinking side of your business, of your chief aim. So you're going to be thinking, strategizing, planning. You're going to be using your feelings as a gauge. You're going to be feeling good now, okay? Less than 10% should be focused on the actual doing. The actual doing, the reason why is because if you are truly focused on the thinking part, you will have no choice but to get into action because you will feel so good and you will believe with all your heart that you will get that goal, that you're going to move mountains. You're going to jump over tall buildings just to get your goal accomplished if you believe that you actually can accomplish it. It's amazing how hard people will actually work if they're convinced that they will get their goal if they just have to push a little harder. Okay, and the 4 steps of learning. You start with unconscious incompetence. That means you don't know what you don't know. And you move all through the steps of learning until you're practicing. And you're not practicing the wrong things. You're practicing because you've been taught by a master who's teaching you the right things. So we don't say practice makes perfect. We say perfect practice makes perfect. And you get all the way to unconscious competence, meaning you are on autopilot. You just do it without even thinking. That's when you're, a Jedi Knight. and somebody comes and attacks you, and you just know all the right moves. You don't even really have to think about it. And the fifth basic is master the basics. Why is that the most important basic?
You have to have a foundation to build upon.
Good answer. Yes, your foundation should be very deep, because you could only build up as high as your foundation would be books, audios, events, all surrounded by like-minded people that are trying to better themselves on a base of recognition. And if you recall, we have that symbol. It's got a triangle in it, and it looks like a ray of sun coming out of the middle of the triangle. Now, this is the system for success. So you should be reading books every day. Leaders are always readers. And when I say books, I'm not talking about, a comic book or anything. I'm talking about a book that is teaching you the right success steps. And that gets your brain into a certain mood, because when you're using your conscious mind, throughout the day, like when you're at work and stuff, your mind is in a certain frequency, what we call beta, okay? But then when you read, you actually go into alpha state. When you're meditating and sleeping, you will be in theta or delta most of the time. Delta is very deep sleep where you don't dream, but theta is a dreaming state, and theta is also meditation state. So monks will go into theta. So when you're in an alpha state, that is the state of hypnosis. That is the state of the subconscious mind. And your book reading is going to put you in that state. So you are more suggestible in that state. Well, if you're reading a book that is teaching you the right things about success, it's like you're planting hypnotic suggestions, making you an automatic success magnet when you're reading these types of books. And I'm going to give you another one today to read. Audios also will change your brain wave chemistry, so that it's almost like you get you get two birds in the hand, because when you're reading, you're going to be in one state, but when you're listening to audios, you're going to be in a different state. And to be honest, there's certain times in the day where I can't read a book, a physical book or a book on my Kindle, okay, because I might be driving. Well, I can listen to audios while I'm driving, but I can't read a book while I'm driving, okay? So you can use the difference in medium depending on what you're doing, and use it to your best, to fit your lifestyle the best, okay? If you want to get really obsessive, you can listen to audios while you're shaving, getting ready, showering, throughout the day. If you can put in some headphones, great. Whenever you can put a book in your hands and read, great. But it might just be 5 minutes. That's fine. It's not actually the amount that you read or the amount that you listen. It is changing your brain chemistry just for that short period of time that's going to do it for you. And of course, the type of audio that you're listening to, the type of book that you're listening to. And events, we're going to have events, but usually at events, you're going away from home. You're going to be spending time away from home. You're getting out of that rut of your daily routine. That is very important. Sometimes you got to switch things up and shock your system so that it'll just change the way that you think, because you're doing things differently. And you might get lost. You might feel uncomfortable, right? It's some very important stuff. And of course, you're going to meet people that are like-minded, and it'll feel like you're not alone. You also get a lot of advice from them. You might form business partnerships with them. And when you get recognition and receive recognition, that is very powerful. That's probably one of the most powerful parts of the system, is giving and receiving recognition, because you're not getting a participation trophy. You will only get recognition if you have actually accomplished something. And believe it or not, if you have a contest for a t-shirt, you want to see what people will do to win that t-shirt. It is amazing. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the prize. It has to do with the competition. You won, and you have bragging rights. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what the prize is. Sometimes the prize is for charity anyway, so you don't even get to keep the money. But it's a big competition because it's bragging rights, right? I won. I beat you, right? Okay. Now, another thing that we also talked about is, sorry, I just need to look at my notes here. We talked about purchasing the books yourself or getting the books. So has anybody, well, I know Truman, you did. Has anybody else purchased any of the books or read any of the books? Okay, well, I'm just going to let other people answer because I don't think a lot of people are here. So that's fine. I'll just let people answer in their minds when they're listening on YouTube. Okay, and we also talked about feeling good now. There are different techniques for that. For example, looking for the gold. So you're always looking for gold, the positive part of life. There's a lot of negative stuff out there. We could complain all day long. There's some people who do. But if you're always focused on what you're complaining about, then it's going to seem worse. But if you're focused on how nice a day it is, any positive thing that you can find to be grateful for, look for that, because it'll help you focus on that. Then we talked about anger and how we could use anger to focus on what we want. So when we feel angry or when things are not going our way, it is because we are trying to create something and it's not going well. So when you're creating something and there's a progress to the creation, and you can see that today you're further along towards your goal than you were yesterday, you feel good because, hey, I'm creating. The funny thing is, after you've finished, you don't really feel that great. It's only during the creation process that you're going to feel bliss. But if you're not feeling bliss, it's probably because there's something stopping you. Either someone is getting in your way, or there's a problem, or there's some kind of a stop, and it's stopping the creation process, and you get angry or you get frustrated, or sometimes people get sad. There's a lot of people that don't get angry easily, and they'll just get sad and they'll give up. That happens too. So we talked about that and how we could use negative emotions to clarify what it is we don't want. Because sometimes we're not that specific about what we don't want, right? And then once we figure out what we don't want, we turn our backs on it and focus on what we do want. Work towards our goal and we feel great. Don't stay angry, right? Because if you stay angry, the universe is going to give you more situations that will make you angry. So that's not the point of the exercise. It's just to get out of the anger if it comes up. Or if you feel like giving up, you're going to have moments where you might want to give up. So that's what you do, is you use that situation to clarify what you don't want. Okay, and then we talked about how the how is irrelevant. It makes no difference how your goal comes about. Assuming, of course, that everything is done honestly, that we're not taking anything away from anybody else, we're not hurting other people, that sort of thing, okay? We're doing everything above board, it's fine, but assuming everything's good, it doesn't matter how, it really doesn't. Now, I talked a little bit about some personal times when I used these techniques to find success. And I also gave examples from Kevin's life. Basically, the money will just show up once you've made a decision to do something. Something very interesting that I learned from Maureen St. Germain, and I checked this out and it's true, is when you check in the Akashic records, if someone is going to an event, it's really interesting, but you see only the people who have already paid for their ticket. It's almost like, putting that money into place locks you in. Now, yes, you can cancel. I mean, there's certain times where you'll pay for an event, you'll buy the plane tickets and you'll book a hotel and everything, but it just doesn't work out and you have a medical emergency or a family member does or something and you have to cancel. But for the most part, if you pay in advance, and I'm talking a couple months before an event, if you look in the Akashic records about who's going, you only see the people that have paid, which I find very interesting. So I use this technique. I told you about it, that I asked Jeannie, my wife, to book plane tickets to Rome, even though we weren't going, because I knew that would lock me in to going to Rome. And I was so committed that I used the techniques. I drew pictures and everything. Drawing pictures, by the way, is very powerful. We're going to go over pictures and dream building on another day. But I was so committed that we bought everything that we could buy because I knew that would lock us in. Okay, and who listened to Your Wish is Your Command in full?
Almost there.
Excellent. Wonderful. Okay. And what about who listened to The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale?
That's next up for me.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, if you have things in queue, that's the best, because nowadays we have all that technology where we could just put things in queue and then it's automatic. Okay. And I talked about having money as your goal. If you're going to have money, then if that's your goal, like, oh, I want to make $1 million, don't just pick a round number. You're going to imagine a dollar amount down to the penny, and you will know exactly how you are going to spend that money. So you're kind of locking in something concrete. Don't just imagine a dollar amount, because it's really difficult for your brain to do that, because money is it's just nothing, right? It's just paper. It doesn't really exist until you're buying something concrete with it. And you also have to think about income tax, sales tax, hidden cost. What if you need employees? What if you need to ship the item? Are you going to need contractors to do the work for you? That sort of thing. So you have to think about all of that extra stuff that a lot of people don't. Okay. Oh, you know what? I have to go and grab my other page of notes. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, sorry about that. Forgot I had put that in my other bag. Okay, so the topic today is know the score. Know the score. Well, okay, obviously in sports, you need to know the score. This is going to help you. I mean, if you're playing football and it's almost the end of the game, you guys have the ball and you're losing by 2 points. If you have enough room to kick a field goal, then that's going to give you the points necessary to win. So you need to know that. It is so easy to quantify results and to succeed once you've done so, that it's amazing how few people do it. There is a book called The Game of Work. And I think it's by Conrad. Let me just look it up because he spells it funny. Yeah, Charles Conrad. Well, this website spells it Coonradt, Coonradt. It is spelled funny, isn't it? Okay, so I guess it's Coonradt, Charles Coonradt or Conrad. Not sure how to pronounce that, but the name of the book is The Game of Work, and it's a bright yellow book. That is an excellent book to put in your library. Okay. When you have wishy-washy goals, technical term, it's important to use this technique to quantify at least one part of your wishy-washy goal. So I'll give you an example of a wishy-washy goal. I just want to find myself. Okay, well, what the hell does that mean? You just want to find yourself. See, people who don't really want to succeed often pick those types of goals because you can't quantify it. You can't. How do you know you got it? How do you know you found yourself? I mean, and that's a fine goal to have. We all want to find ourselves and figure out who we are. But in terms of chief aim, try and pick something that you'll know once you've gotten it. Okay? Because this is actually going to work. We're not one of these flaky people that we say we're going to do something and then we're not going to do anything. We're actually going to do this. This is real. So we're going to bring something into the world and manifest for real. So let's really do it. Okay. So we're going to take something that's wishy-washy and we're going to quantify it however we can. And that book, Game of Work, will teach you how to do that if you don't have any idea how. But I would recommend not even having that type of a goal. I would recommend having a goal where you will know for a fact that you've reached that goal. And if your goal is, well, I want to speak Spanish fluently, okay? Well, that's a great goal too. It's not as quantifiable as, well, I want to make $1.5 million this year. But it is quantifiable because, I mean, you can break it down into steps that are quantifiable, if that makes sense. So you can say, okay, I want to be able to go to a Spanish-speaking country and go to a restaurant and order dinner and have the waitress understand me and bring me what I want. Not, a deep fried shoe. Okay. So I want to be able to go to a restaurant and converse with a waitress or a waiter and get what I ordered off the menu. That's a quantifiable goal because there's only a certain number of words that you're going to have to learn, right? So if you know how to do that, then that's one step towards your goal of being fluent in Spanish, right? Or whatever language it is. Learning to play the piano. It's not a wishy-washy goal, but it is a goal that's less quantifiable than certain others, okay? So learning to play the piano, okay? Well, I want to learn how to play chopsticks really, really well so that I could play it in front of my friends and feel proud that I'm better than they are or something like that, okay? I want to learn how to play this particular song on the piano so that anybody who hears it is going to think that a professional did, right? You could pick a song and learn that song, and that's going to get you closer to your goal of learning to play the piano well. So your next logical step should always be quantifiable, no matter what your goal. All right? So in the game of work, in this book, it starts off talking about a union, and I'm a union worker, so I thought this was kind of funny. It was a story about cold storage and how these workers had to work in, it must have been a meat cooler or some kind of a freezer for food. And they had to have, a certain number of breaks. They could only work for a certain length of time in the cold. They had to have, warm beverages a certain number of feet away from each other, that sort of thing. So they had to have all these strict rules of, trying to keep the workers warm. And then it talks about winter sports. Okay, so I want you to think about work and being at work, and imagine you had to work in a really cold place. And then imagine a skier or somebody who does the luge or some kind of an Olympic winter sport where you're outside in the cold. How many hours do you think those guys put in practicing for the Olympics? Just think about that. And winter sports too, like ice fishing or just fishing in general. Just think about that. How many guys get up at noon to go fishing? I mean, no, that's not the way it works. You get up butt hurt early, okay? You really get up early. You go through hours without a bite a lot of times. You might not have much of a lunch. You try to keep really quiet, right? There's bugs, there's dirt. Maybe you're going to fall in the water, right? There's all kinds of things. It might rain. There might be a lightning storm, a flash flood. There's going to be lots of mud that you're going to have to drive through. Maybe you'll even get stuck in the mud, right? And you'll do all of it because it's a sport, because you're competing with your buddies. And even if you have no one to compete with, you can compete with yourself the last time you did it, right? So it's competitive. Human beings are competitive. We're creators, and we're also competitive with one another and with ourselves. It's just a fact of life. So what if you could make work more like a game or a sport? There is a famous story in the game of work, and I can't recall who it was, but it was a famous wealthy man, and he wanted to figure out how he could get more production in his factory, in his shop. So Night Shift had worked all night, and they had created 6 whatever it was that they made there. So 6 doohickeys, okay? So night shift worked all night and they made 6 doohickeys. Well, this wealthy man wanted to get more production. So he took a big piece of chalk and he wrote a giant 6 on the shop floor. And then he told his managers for day shift that night shift had made 6. That's all he said. That's all he said. Well, guess what? How many do you think day shift made? They made 7 doohickeys. And I mean, obviously, safety comes into play nowadays. They have this big safety pull. So you would have to say, you guys are going to lose all of your doohickeys if you get one guy injured or something like that. But you get the point, okay? If you make it a game, suddenly everybody's interested, and it doesn't even matter that they don't really benefit. Because I mean, what does it matter if I make 7 doohickeys for my company? I mean, I don't benefit any more than if I made 6, right? But it's a game. It's bragging rights. Like, we made 7 and night shift only made 6, right? All of a sudden, the competition part of it comes into play. And, this famous wealthy guy just knew that humans are competitive. So that's what he did. He took advantage of that part of our spirits, okay? So in this book, Conrad he's a famous business consultant. Okay, so he takes failing businesses, he goes there, he interviews the business, and then he immediately quantifies something in the business. And he goes over how incredible it is that in business, there are so many things that can be quantified and they're not. There's no score kept whatsoever. So he immediately quantifies something. So whether they make 7 doohickeys or 8 doohickeys, that's one thing you can quantify. But also how many pallets of shipping came in and were unloaded off of the truck. That's another score. If you can keep score with, 6 or 7 different things that are quantified, the better. Try to quantify as much as you can. Try to find something that you're doing where you can keep score. So when he's taking a failing business and after he quantifies a couple things, he tells every employee that is being quantified. And he'll have a giant scoreboard. He'll have boards everywhere, just whiteboards everywhere as far as you could see. Every office has a whiteboard. He gets every employee to write a goal involving at least one of the quantified figures. Okay? If the employees know that something is being quantified and the owner wants more pallets unloaded per day, or the owner wants less paper being used, so they're going to count how much paper is being used, how much paper is being thrown away. If they're counting those things and the employees know that, and there's some type of an incentive to do that, they will perform and perform and perform. It is the best way to get a worker to work. When you're doing these lessons, I should hope that the end goal should be obvious, that you are going to be a leader. You are going to be a business owner. You might not want to be a business owner, but the fact is that if you own some type of a business, you're going to be independently wealthy. If you are an employee for the rest of your life, you will probably not be that successful. You're probably going to live a happy life. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I'm an employee right now, so I am not knocking working people. But at the end of the day, being a business owner and being a leader is what you're going to be after taking these lessons seriously. Okay? So I'm going to assume that you're going to want to know how to talk to your employees and how to get your employees the most productive and the happiest. So if you make everything into a game, you're going to win. Don't make it about, oh, you have to work exactly till 5 p.m. You can't leave at 4:59 p.m. No. Okay? If the goal is to make 7 doohickeys today and your workers make 7 doohickeys, then they get to go home. That's the goal. Okay? Even if it's 4:59 and they're supposed to work till 5. You understand? Or you could say, well, if you make 8, then you get a bonus. Right? And then they'll stay longer and they'll give 8 doohickeys, but they also get a bonus. It depends how you want to run your business. As a business owner, what you are going to do is, because everything is going to have its own score, you're going to have graphs and charts made up for you. So at the beginning of the month, this is the score. Then you're going to see the next day and the next day. Okay, so this week, this is what our score was. And you're going to watch it go up. And if it's not going up, you have problems. We have a saying that you should write down and memorize. If you're not growing, you're dying. You do not want to see a plateau on a graph. Now, what happens if you do see a plateau, or what happens if it's going down? Well, you are going to start meditating on that graph, and you are going to move it up with your mind. You might say, that is ridiculous. No, it's not. This works. Move it up with your mind. Look at that graph and raise it up with your mind. Now, if you're going to raise it up to extraordinary levels, that might be beyond believability, and then you run into the realm of doubt, okay? So you have to make it believable. So lift it just a little bit at a time. If the graph is at 5, lift it up to 6. Don't lift it up to 500 if you're only at 5. It's probably not going to work. So as a business owner, you're going to be looking at the score all the time and moving it up with your mind. Employees should always be recognized. Remember that recognition? Employees should be recognized constantly for helping the score go up. And you praise them in front of others. This makes them feel really good. They might be embarrassed, but they will still feel very proud of what they have done. All of this, by the way, is done in the spirit of fun and healthy competition. Okay? There's no cheating allowed. If somebody's cheating, they're cheating their numbers, then that deserves some type of reprimand. Okay? It's not dog eat dog in this world that we're living in. Or how am I going to put this? If you follow these lessons, it is not dog eat dog world. Right now it is dog eat dog world. In the rest of the world that you see, that you live in, the matrix, yes, it is. But the world that we are creating, if you take these lessons to heart, is not. You are going to be creating something that is never going to take away from somebody else. You are making something, and what you make is going to be totally different than what I make. We are not going to detract from one another. In fact, we might become, well, I might buy from you and you might buy from me. So we'll be symbiotic. Okay. You're not going to hurt anyone. You're not going to cheat. There's no dog eat dog. It's just good, healthy competition. Okay. No sore losers here. All right. Now, the reason why you have to know the score and use it to your advantage is because when you boil everything down to numbers, it becomes impersonal, and therefore it's easier to focus on what must be done in order to succeed. It leaves very little room for emotion to get in the way, for doubt and fear to take hold. People are often focused on worrying instead of focused on the end goal. So when you break everything down into numbers, all you have to do is make the numbers go up, and voila, your business is successful. So it makes it more scientific and more just hard, cold numbers so that you don't have emotions getting in the way. Another thing to think about is imagine the situation or the legend of the phoenix rising from the ashes. So according to legend, there is an animal called the phoenix, and it lives for a very long time, but then at some point it will die. And it will die by going ablaze and turn to ash. And from the ash, a new phoenix is born. So it is said to be immortal, an immortal creature. Now, this is so true in business, and this is why the elite class use the phoenix symbol so much, is because it is part of their training. So the phoenix rising from ashes, I want you to think about everything that we've learned about anger and using anger to focus. And then I want you to imagine a graph. So just think of a graph. The numbers don't matter. The figures don't matter. That graph is climbing steadily. And then all of a sudden, there's this huge drop. But then after the huge drop, it will spike upward. And then it tapers off. It starts climbing steadily again. And then there's a huge drop, but not as big as the first one. And then right after the huge drop, there's a huge increase again, even higher than it was before. And it keeps going like that. So just imagine a graph like that. You would think to yourself, just looking at it, wow, what caused those huge drops? Because we want more of those. Because whatever caused the huge drop, right afterward, there was a huge increase. So that's what we want. We want these huge drops. How do we get those? And that's when you find out that those huge drops are the problems that arose during everyday business. There are pitfalls in business. And if you use major disasters to focus, remember, you're clarifying what you don't want, and then you're turning your back on it and looking at what you do want, and you feel great. Well, that's when it starts to go up. So you want those moments where you think that things are going really badly, because it'll make you focus and it'll go really well shortly after, okay? Those dips and then very sharp climbs right after the dips are what's known as phoenix rising from the ashes. That's a very important part of the score. So if you're graphing everything and quantifying everything, understand that part of it, that you will have very fast downward spirals, which are deceiving, because it's not going to be a downward spiral if you say that it's not going to be a downward spiral. If you use that to focus on what you do want, then you're going to have soaring success after that fall. You're going to be the phoenix rising. And this is a very important principle in business. It ain't over until you say it's over. You just keep fighting. You keep fighting until you die. And by fighting, I mean it's a game. Make it into a game. Make it fun. Because at the end of the day, it is fun. Just pretend this is all the Matrix. Remember how in lesson 1 we talked about the Matrix and how the source code for this Matrix is phi? Well, what if it really is just all a computer program? What if this is not even real? And the source code really is phi, and you're just creating. You've now gotten the hack. So you have a computer chip in your hand that's a hack for this computer program, this game. And you've now learned how to have as many unlimited levels, unlimited lives, unlimited everything. You can jump as high as you want. You can swim as long as you want in this game. Imagine that. You can have anything you want because you have the hack. All right. Are there any questions today?
Well, no questions. That's a good chunk to ponder there and a book to buy.
Yes, a new book to buy.
Thanks. I haven't even collected the other ones yet.
I know. I just keep piling stuff onto you guys. There's a million things out there to listen to and to read. But again, the point is not the amount that you read or listen to. The point is changing that brain chemistry every day, just a little bit.
Exactly. And I can see that that's actually happening.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, then we can end it for today. I will be sticking around for a few more minutes to talk with everybody, but yeah, we can close down the YouTube now.